Speak up. Yeah. Hi everyone. Am I audible to all? Our today's topic is building microservices using Spring Boot. So our concepts here we covered some concepts like the what are the microservices, benefits of the microservices, Spring Boot for microservices, and the setting up a microservices and the intercommunication between the services. And the last is conclusion for that. So, what are the microservices? So, microservices are the small independent services that will be communicate with each other, and each service handles a specific business capabilities, and the it will communicate with the help of the REST APIs. So we have one example for that, like the we have three different services like the order service, payment service, and the user service. So, what is the benefits of the microservices? So, the first is scalability. So, each service can scale independently based on the demand and the improving performance and the resource uses for that. And it will be the loose coupling, like the services are independent. So, making the system easier to maintain, update, and expand without affecting the others. Like we are creating three microservices, order, user, and the payment. So it will not affect to each other for that. We can manually manage the different things in the each service for that. Like the easy deployment, we are creating the different services, so it will be easy to deploy the service for a single time. Like microservices can be deployed individually, and the enable quicker release and the minimal downtime, and the default isolation. So the failure in one service don't crash the whole system. Like we have order service, user service. So if order service is failing, so it will not affect the another service that we create for that. And the technology diversity. So we can create different services with the different technologies. It's not compulsory to create all the services with the Java or the Spring Boot for that. So Spring Boot for the microservices. So why we need to use the Spring Boot for the microservices? So Spring Boot is a have a auto configuration and the embedded server. So Spring Boot simplifies the setup with auto configuration. Like it will automatically configure the class path with the help of that. So we don't need to worry about that. And it includes embedded servers like Tomcat. So services can run independently without the external deployment. We didn't need to deploy anything related to that. So easy REST API development. It makes building RESTful APIs straightforward, offering ready-to-use tools and the pattern that is speed up development. So like the it will be easy to create APIs in the Spring Boot with the help of the microservices, and the works with the Spring Cloud. So Spring Boot integrates with Spring Cloud to support the services discovery and the centralized configuration and smooth communication between the microservices. If we are using the Spring Cloud with the help of the Spring Boot, so it will be the easiest thing to manage the service communication between the two or the many services for that. So we are creating we are creating one example, like we have user service. So first step we need, when we are creating the Spring Boot project, we need to add some initial dependencies like the Spring Web, Data GPA, and the MySQL. If we are using the MySQL database, so we need to add the MySQL driver. And after that we are creating one entity for that. So We have ID, name, and the email for that, and we are using the annotation like @ID. It will use for the primary key. Here we are creating the repository and the controller. So we have one interface for the repository, like the user repository, and here we are extending the JPA repository, and then we have one controller with the user controller. So here we are auto wiring our user repository to uh, find the data for that. Like we have one get user call. So for with the help of our repo, we are just finding the find by ID. So here we are just getting the user details by the help of the ID, and we have for the user service. Here we have the get user call. Now we have another microservice like the order service. So the order service is another standalone microservice, and it's designed with the structure similar to the user service. So here we have the endpoint like the slash orders for managing the order details operations. Like we created some CRUD operations for that, like creating, reading, listening, and the for the viewing the orders for that. So, to enable the communication between the order service and the user service, we can use the different scenarios like the REST template or the Fiend client like that. So, these tools help the other services make HTTP requests to the user service, like the REST template, a simple customizable way to call the REST endpoints. So, by the help of the REST template, we can communicate between the two microservices like the order service and the user service. Another thing is that Fiend client. So it's a declarative REST client integrated with the Spring Cloud. So it's great for the cleaner code and the easier service to service communication. So Fiend client is a REST client developed by the Netflix and integrated into Spring Cloud. So it is defined with the web services clients just for writing Java interface, and the Spring will implement the HTTP calls under the hood. So this setup allow microservices to interact while maintaining the loose coupling and the independence. So the inter-service communication method. So microservice can interact with each other using the both synchronous and the asynchronous communication patterns. Here are the some important common approaches for that. So like the synchronous, like the REST. So uses HTTP based communication where services wait for a response. So for that we have some common tools like the REST template and the web client. So we can use that. It's like so for the REST template, it's the simple HTTP client for the RESTful calls, and for the web client, it's non-blocking reactive alternative for the Spring. And then we have Fiend client. So it's the declarative. Fiend client is the declarative REST. So declarative REST client for the based on the Spring Cloud. It allows the HTTP calls through interface cleaner and the less boilerplate code. Integrates well with service discovery and the load balancing, like the Iraka server and all. And for another one is for the message brokers. It's the asynchronous process and the service communication through event or message, not for the directly API calls, and improve decoupling and the scalability, especially in a high traffic system. So common brokers is Apache Kafka and the RabbitMQ. So Apache Kafka is a distributed event streaming platform, and the RabbitMQ is a lightweight message broker with flexible routings. So now we are communicating between the two services. Like one is order service and the user service. So inside the order service, we are just calling our user service. So for that, firstly we need to add the dependency like the Spring Cloud starter open field. And now after that, our second step is we need to enable Fiend client in our main order service class. Then we will create one interface using the user client name, and inside that we need to use the add order client. Here we mention the name like the related to our user service, and then we will call our endpoint from the user service like the get user. So it will be the same URL that we used in our user service. So it will be the get user